Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy has always advocated a Bharat First approach. Last 10 years have seen a paradigm shift in the way India is perceived as a country. A rare, I would say, instance of a global leader being invited on two occasions to address, the bastion of democracy in the United States itself is a fitting testimony. Ultimately, it comes down to the leadership that is needed to drive policy. And I think we have seen that in manifesting itself over the last 10 years. A clear mandate enables us to not only take that relationship forward, it is also a mandate that is there for the Prime Minister and the leadership to take our country forward into our goal of becoming a developed country by 2047.
June 4th is approaching fast. What is the sense of curiosity here in Washington when you meet your old colleagues, top officials of the Biden administration? What's the mood like?
Well, it's good to be back, and I've met a lot of my friends, whether they're into politics or they're officials in the administration or even members of the community, business, etc. And as expected, I think there's a lot of interest in the elections and the electoral exercise that's taking place in India. Not only because of what it represents, another major exercise in democracy, but also because the consequences in terms of the results of the elections will be important not just for India but the world at large. And I think here in the United States there is a very clear sense of interest in those elections.
Right. Now, you worked very closely under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi with, Dr. Jaishankar. If this administration returns to power, what is your sense of, what would be the priorities for the next 100 days in terms of foreign policy, in terms of the India-US relationship and the trajectory?
Well, Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy has always advocated a Bharat First approach. In other words, citizens of India and their priorities have guided and dictated how our foreign policy is implemented on the ground. And the last 10 years have seen a paradigm shift in the way India is perceived as a country. I mean, the fact that Prime Minister Modi was invited to address a joint session of the US Congress, not once but twice. I mean, a rare, I would say, instance of a global leader being invited on two occasions to address, the bastion of democracy in the United States itself is a fitting testimony to A, the importance ascribed to the relationship by the United States, and B, Prime Minister Modi's own stature as a leader that has taken India, far beyond what would have been expected of any leadership to achieve in just a decade's time.
Right. You've been here before. You've seen the India-US relationship. Could you stress upon, the last 10 years, how this relationship has moved forward?
To A, the importance ascribed to the relationship by the United States, and B, Prime Minister Modi's own stature as a leader that has taken India, far beyond what would have been expected of any leadership to achieve in just a decade's time.
Right. You've been here before. You've seen the India-US relationship. Could you stress upon, the last 10 years, how this relationship has moved forward, in terms of the convergences? There have been some differences as well. Where does India and US stand today?
Well, my own sense is that the relationship has matured and is today in a position where it is able to consider the strategic aspect of the relationship in a more comprehensive manner and not allow these instances where any two vibrant democracies could have differences in them. So we've learned to deal with our differences, and we've learned to look at the longer picture in terms of our own partnership that is not only bilateral in nature but also global in the way we approach our region, the Indo-Pacific and beyond. Now, one of the very vital factors in that relationship moving forward is that you have a clear mandate on the leadership of both sides. In the United States, you have an executive presidency, so the mandate sort of exists. In India, we've not had a government with a clear mandate for a very long time till Prime Minister Modi came onto the stage in 2014. And that overwhelming mandate that he has received from the people of India have enabled the leadership of both countries to take that partnership, that vital step forward. So we've come a long way. And if you look at the fact that Prime Minister Modi has had a very good relationship with three successive US presidents, from President Obama to President Trump to President Biden now, is also a very, very important factor in the way the relationship is driven at the very top in both countries. I recall the first in-person Quad meeting that Prime Minister Modi was invited to and attended in Washington, D.C. in September 2021. And I've also noted that there's hardly any issue of global importance on which the United States hasn't consulted India at the highest levels, whether it is an issue of climate change, whether it's an issue of sustainable development, whether it's political issues such as Afghanistan. I think on every issue we have been in a part of that consultations that you hold when you want a consensus in global decision making. So I think we've come a long way, and that relationship is driven by a strong economic undercurrent, trade, investments. US investments in India have fueled the startup, I would say, revolution. Indian investments in the US have also created lots of jobs in the United States. Technology is an important part of that. And of course, people to people connect. The Indian diaspora in the United States is a very successful one. They are a bridge between our two countries. And so these factors have taken that relationship forward. But as I said, ultimately it comes down to the leadership that is needed to drive policy. And I think we have seen that in manifesting itself over the last 10 years. And I think this trend will only continue. And that brings me to the point of a clear mandate once again. A clear mandate enables us to not only take that relationship forward, it is also a mandate that is there for the Prime Minister and the leadership to take our country forward into our goal of becoming a developed country by 2047. And that means every citizen of India is motivated towards that particular goal today. Without that mandate, I think we would be faltering in what has already been a very, very remarkable economic, socio-economic development in our country. And I sense here, in speaking to people, that there is consensual support for India to continue its progress, for India to continue to contribute not only to the relationship but to global affairs. And I think that sort of sums up the larger objectives of the relationship, which in many senses overcomes any smaller issues that crop up in the relationship from time to time.